This video is called Factoring Trinomials. Trinomials means there's three parts, three terms. These are all going to be quadratics, which means x squared. Being this exponent means they have two solutions. So when we're solving this problem later, it's going to have two solutions. All right, so factoring is just breaking it down, kind of taking it apart. And what you're thinking is what multiplies to give me this 8 and what adds to give me this 9. So what numbers multiply to give me 8 and the same two numbers have to add to give me 9? And then this is how you write factors. Doot, doot. All right, let's try some. So what you're doing is trying to find two numbers that multiply to give you 27. It's really 1 times 27 because you do A times C. A. Okay, so A is 1 because it's always a thing multiplied by x squared. And C is the constant. So 1 times 27 gives you 27. So I'm figuring out what multiplies to give me 27, and the same two numbers add to give me that negative 12. So maybe you can just think of them. But usually I have to kind of have a way to think about them organized. And this is just a chart I organized to have my thinking. 1 times 27 is a factor of 27. 3 times 9 is 27, and those are the only factors of 27. So then I think, okay, which ones are going to somehow add or subtract to give me 12? Well, these are going to add or subtract to give me like 28 or 26, not 12. But these could add to give me 12. They could subtract to give me 6. So these are the factors I'm going to use. Now I have to decide how to put my negatives. Well, because they have to add to be negative 12, they're both going to be negative. And they also have to multiply to be a positive number. A negative times a negative is positive. So this is how you write your answer. X minus 3, x minus 9. And it doesn't matter whether you put x minus 9 or x minus 3. It matters, where you put the negatives, but in this case, they were both negative. So this is the final answer. Check. This is I broke down this problem. Okay, here's my next one. So I always make my chart because the chart helps me organize my thinking. What multiplies to give me 2? What adds to give me negative 3? Okay. 1 times 2 are the only things that multiply to give me negative 2, or to give me this 2. And again, they both have to be negative because they have to add to give me the negative 3 and multiply. A negative times a negative is a positive. So here's how I write my factors. These are called factors. This is how you write it. This is like the standard way to write it. Okay, great. Final answer. So I make my chart. What multiplies to give me 8? Because it was 1 times 8. Remember, there's a 1 out here. And what adds to give me negative 6? I kind of don't deal with the negatives till the end. I just try to figure all the factors of 8. I start at 1 because sometimes 1 is the one that you use. 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Oh, well, those are the only factors of 8. All right, great. Well, again, they both have to be negative because they have to add to negative 6 and multiply to positive 8. So here's how I write my answer. Final answer. Okay, here's the next problem. All right, what multiplies to give me negative 18? Same numbers, add to give me 3, because B is 3. All right, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Those are the factors of 18. So I know it has to be negative 18, so I know one of the numbers has to be negative, because when they multiply a positive times a negative, you get a negative. All right, and then I want a positive 3. So I have to just think about it. I know these numbers are going to be the ones I'm using, because 6 subtract 3 gives me 3. So that's how I decide where I'm going to put the negative. X minus 3, x plus 6. That's the final answer. Okay, this problem, x squared minus x minus 20. So I make my chart to help me think through it. You can just, some people can just think through it, but I usually need an organized process, and that's all this is, the chart. What multiplies to give me negative 20, what adds to give me negative 1. The factors of 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Those are the only factors of 20. So then I think, okay, which ones are one number apart? Well, 4 and 5 are one number apart. So bingo, they're the ones I'm going to use. Okay, well now I want them to add to be a negative 1. So that I know that the negative has to be on the 5. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. They multiply to give me negative 20. They add to give me negative 1. So this is how I write my factors. X plus 4, x minus 5. I like that color. That's a cool color. All right. That is your final answer. Okay, this is the last problem I'm going to do in this video. Sometimes you get a problem like this. 3x squared minus 12x minus 135. You go, whoa, that looks ugly. But you got to remember this. Every time you factor, you should try to see if it has a greatest common factor, or a GCF. Well, these numbers, negative 12 and negative 135, have a GCF. It's 3. So I take the GCF out. When I take the GCF out, I cancel. This becomes 1, this becomes negative 4, and this becomes negative 45. Now, you factor this trinomial. What multiplies to give me negative 45? What adds to give me negative 4? We decide from our chart that it's 9 and 5. And I want a negative 4, so I'm going to put the negative, so it's going to be 5 minus 9. That will give me negative 4. So I'm going to put the negative on the 9. So here's how you write your final answer. That 3 you took out, you have to write that in your answer. Then you have x plus 5, x minus 9. So this is breaking it down. I took this big problem and I broke it down to its simplest factors. That's what factoring is. Okay, good job.